we're gonna get kicked off. Everyone on this stage has said something that struck me and has really stood with me since the beginning of this film. And so I'm gonna go through and I'm just gonna mention, and if you can reflect on what that meant at the moment and maybe what it means to you now. Isaac, I want to start with you because you're right here.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm gonna bully you a little bit.
I'm used to it, so.
We work a lot together. It's not the first time. But so Isaac, one thing you said is that we're all human and that we're not always gonna get it right first time, but it's really about our intentions.
I think that line sticks to me now, being a disability advocate and sharing my lived experience, and also learning through the community that the only way we can really go forward in life is by seeing it as a two-way street and also learning from each other and realizing that we're not all perfect and we've all got to make mistakes to then get better. But again, as I said about the intentions, if you have bad intentions whilst you're making mistakes, then you're in the wrong job and you shouldn't be doing what you're doing. So I think it's got to be based on intentions and actually learning whilst doing it, because I feel like I've stumbled quite a lot throughout this journey, and I've been very open-minded, being able to connect with different people in the community and being able to learn and being able to put that into my own work, and it allows me to become a better ally for my own community by learning from others. So yeah, we just got to give people the space to learn, as long as the intention's there.
Beautifully said. No, I love that. And I think patience also plays into that, allowing people to clearly express what they're believing. Well said, Isaac, as usual. And I will give a little time for everyone to plug their own stuff at the end, because that is why, I brought these people together, is because they're all bringing such amazing characteristics and progress to all of our lives. And I think it's important for us to recognize that. Samantha, you're obviously incredibly, highly achieving, but I do want to go back to something you mentioned, which was it's difficult to share. And I remember when we spoke, you said, I would much rather do stills. I would much rather be, in front of the camera. I don't want to have to, express so clearly and so vividly so many emotions. But I think that you are able to do so. And one thing you really said that opened it was that once people open their eyes, they open their hearts, and it will not happen that heart recedes back to the previous form. And so as hard as it is to share, how important is it to give that message?
I mean, like for me, like 30 years ago when I became paraplegic, we didn't have many voices there. The only option we had was to speak out. Even that was for me, was totally out of my comfort zone. I was a model. I like to be quiet and take pictures. I wasn't a voice, so I think, but I don't think we didn't have the choice. We need to do what we need to do. And I think this was the right call. And now I'm so happy to see that nowadays, mainly through social media and everything that we have been going through, we have more brands, we have more models, we have universities, we have more allies, we have more advocates. It's like when we started, we didn't have. So everything, like I was starting the brand, doing the show, doing the advocacy, doing the modeling. We just we was trying to do everything. Sure that we can't do that. You need to pick your battles and go ahead. But nowadays, seeing how develop, even that we are still so behind. Okay, we are growing the community. We are growing the allies. All the universities now that are working, we can see IFA, you can see Centros of Arts, Royal College of Arts, and also universities that I'm working in Brazil. So we can see more universities getting on board. And this means that this more students learn about. That means that this more brands coming around, because the students are the future brands that we are going to see. So I think it's like, okay, was out of the comfort zone to share, to be bespoken voice is not something that I'm still not comfortable with, getting used to, but it's the fact that we need to do what we need to do.
Very well said. No, I appreciate it. And again, I think it's important that everyone is here, you know, sharing their voice. Totally. But building on that, as you said, you know, the students are next generation of creators, of innovators, of, you know, project leaders, thought leaders. And I think, JP, you've done more here to promote those young. I mean, I'm not gonna coach, you know. But no. I mean, we loved working with the students at IFA, and I think you know, a lot of their open-mindedness came from the top, which is where you're at. So you've come to this brand new, very shiny school, and we appreciate it. Thank you for hosting, of course. But if you could reflect a little bit on, you know, where the course started and where it's come, and why, you know, it was personal to you. Obviously, you speak a little bit about it in the film, but, you know, why it's still important, if not more important, to speak about.
Yeah, so to me, fashion is an eternal work in progress, just like this building that is happening in the backdrop. Sorry about that. There's a new wing addition to the campus that is happening. They need 10 more minutes? Okay, thank God. Thank you so much. Yeah, so if I go back to how it started, and Louis said that there was something that was very personal, and for me it was growing up with my dad that was that I've known all my life, half paralyzed, and you know, for me it was it was always a question, because I knew that I could see my mother like struggling to find clothes for him, and you know, Andre talks about it as well during the sessions, like how we do not realize how a silhouette changes, for example, when we are on a wheelchair, or for example, that the fabric on the elbows is actually getting deteriorated so much faster. And it was a way for me to say, okay, personally, maybe if I can do something for my dad, and, you know, start this trend, you know, with students, and, you know, with all these beautiful people that were involved to get fashion involved on this topic. It was very meaningful, and he passed away 2 years ago, but yeah, I think he would have loved to see the final result of the documentary. And from something that is more academic as a perspective, we are in this building because IFA Paris was bought by a group back in 2023. And, you know, there's a lot of things that happen when the school is bought, and, you know, changing of logos and websites, and, you know, talking about a new manifesto for the school. And so when I wrote the manifesto, the president of the group said, you know, when we read that, it almost feels like you're a militant, you know. It's a very political commitment in the way. And I said, yes, absolutely. Like, fashion is political, and if it is not right now, because it's a work in progress, it should be. And see, you know, the progress of the students during the project, understanding, you know, ideas of ergonomy that is very technical, but also having this emotional involvement in the project, and using fashion to do something good, and talk to people that are not necessarily in, you know, what most of the outside world would consider like the fashion circle. It was amazing. And that's what fashion should be at the end of the day, you know, a vector of cohesion, of diversity, and of inclusivity.
I mean, yeah, I'll take it. I'll project. Yeah, thanks, great. No, you're good. No, I mean, JB super eloquently said, as always, I don't know if, I mean, that's why you're good with the young ones, but they listen. No, but very beautifully said. I think, you know, reflecting on the youth, and thank you, Craig. He's made it. Woo! But I'll finish my lineup. You know, everyone pulled out their curtain. But Kat, one thing that you mentioned was, and I think we're gonna go through a little round of you know, introductions. That's probably helpful, but maybe a bit late. But in any case, Kat, if you could reflect on one thing that you said that really stuck with me, was that we're all going to be part of the disabled community at some point in our lives, and I think, you know, it works against the ostracization, you know, like against the othering, which I think is totally unnecessary, because a lot of times people don't consider, and, you know, I think going back to Isaac's point, we're not all going to get it right. I'm going to say things that are not right. Language is a massive piece of that puzzle. But, you know, Kat, you speak about, you know, if you have a broken arm, you know, temporarily you have reduced mobility. And so, like, considering how that's going to impact you in the short term and how it might affect you in the long term is something that you become aware of, you know. And that's back to the point Samantha made about, like, once you realize that, you don't go back, you know, you always have that consideration. So if you could reflect a little bit on, you know, how that's come along, and like how you hope people will, you know, come to acknowledge that.
I think very often people look at disability and think it never will affect them. They feel like they've got this immortality, and then suddenly from nowhere it can. So, for example, I picked my baby up when he was crying at 6 months old. I herniated a disc. I became paralyzed, and it can happen that quickly. And it's not until it affects you or someone you love that you realize how quickly life can change. But as you say, at the moment, we're sort of situationally disabled from the noise that's going on outside. So that's affecting how we're hearing. So there are different times in our lives that we will always come across a disability at some point. And very much like Samantha said, once you've experienced that, it's very difficult to unlearn that experience. Whether it's yourself personally or somebody in your family, a loved one or a work colleague, it is going to affect every aspect of your life.
Very well said.
Shall we introduce ourselves? Who are these people? Why are we in front of you? And why did that person come running in so late? So thank you for coming. Je parle un peu de français, but it's terrible. So I'm going to stick to English. And we all said we were going to try to speak slowly. And I have a difficulty with that. And I might be able to be louder than the actual construction happening. I'll encourage all of you to hold the microphone really close, because I think that will help. So I'll start. Well, you know Louis already, the director. I am Craig Crawford. I have had a career for, my goodness, 30 years in fashion, working with major brands. I moved from the United States, where I worked in fashion, to London to lead the digital transformation of Burberry. And I was with Burberry for 7 years, and started my own consultancy. But COVID tried to kill me, and I was hospitalized for 48 days, was in a coma for 21, and I had to learn how to walk all over again. And I realized I couldn't get in my clothes, and I couldn't get out of my clothes. And that's when I went, I know a lot of tech, and I know this industry, and we can do something to make clothing inclusive for people who are living with disability, who have restricted mobility, who have atypical body morphology. And back to something that you said when I just got here, and that was a political statement and what fashion is. I told my team when we started that we were not a charity and we were not an advocacy group. And the next week I said, we're not a charity, but we are an advocacy group. Why? Because we are learning and we can share what we learn and we can help other people by doing that. And I know each and every one of these folks because we are a big community, and Victoria is all the way on the end. She and I should be competitors, and Kat and I should be competitors, and Samantha and I should be, and we're not. There's room for all of us. So that's me, and I'm moderating this, so we're going to try to take the microphone away from me. How about you, Isaac?
I don't know why I'm actually here.
Because you're in the movie.
Yeah, that's no, there is that. But I mean, how I got into the fashion space in the first place. But yeah, so I'm Isaac. I was born with a disability called limb pelvic hypoplasia, meaning I have no arms, short legs, a weak pelvis, scoliosis, and on top of all that, I've got acid reflux. But I've had very supportive friends and family since day one, and they've really encouraged me to be the best version of myself and just go out there and do, basically. May that be skydiving, skiing, tall ship sailing, all these different adventurous activities. But whilst I was doing all of those crazy things, I never really spoke about disability. Even though I was filming it, because I've always had a creative mind to get my creativity out there. So I was filming my different things that I would do, but I never explicitly talk about disability. And friends and family would say you should really talk about disability. You could change people's perspectives, and for people with disabilities to see what's out there. And I thought, oh, why do I have to do that for? Didn't really make any sense to me to talk about disability. Just wanted to be creative. And from that, I kept on ignoring my friends and family who kept telling me to do it. And then I was given an opportunity like this to talk about my lived experience. And after that talk, I talk about the obstacles that I face and what I can achieve. A woman came up to me afterwards and basically said how she's always complaining about life and she's got loads of pains. But after hearing my story, it really changed her perspective. And that was the first time I really understood the impact I was making by sharing my story. And I guess the advocacy really started when I joined LinkedIn in 2021, and learning about Disability Pride Month. And one of my posts talking about it went semi-viral. And that's when I really understood that people want to hear what I have to say. And through that post is when I connected with Victoria, who told me about adaptive clothing. Didn't know anything about adaptive clothing. It was clothes. When it came to clothes, it was what my mum made fit me. But then, yeah, learning about adaptive clothing and then being able to model for the first time, and getting to wear the clothes was like I was like, okay, I get it now. I understand. And not everyone has my mum who can make clothes fit them. So I was like, okay, I truly understand it, and how there's not many options for people when it comes to clothing. So one thing has led to another, and here I am.
Thank you. Samantha.
I'm the CEO of Bullock Inclusion. That's this community interest company. We create social projects and sport, fashion, and accessibility. I'm Brazilian. I live in London for almost 20 years now, and I'm an advocate for inclusion, accessibility, and I was the former #1 wheelchair tennis player from Brazil, actually. So all my background is it's the sport, and when I retired from tennis, I decided to start on the fashion industry because I thought, fashion is the one that reaches 100% of the population somehow, and we are really ahead with the Paralympics, with the Para-Olympic movement, and it was like, okay, let's start the movement in fashion because there was none at that point. So that's where we start, and we have a fashion show that happens in London during the London Fashion Week. That's called Future of Fashion. We have some projects called Inclusive Circle. That's for the disabled community to get together to learn about things that are relevant to ourselves, family, community. So we have a lot of projects that we do inside of the Bullock Inclusion. And I'm also the co-owner of Enable Rise Consultants, where we just do some consultants around disability with my partner, Louise Hunt. And I do some tutoring at the universities, St. St. Martin, some projects with Royal College of Arts and other universities, as we did the project here with the IFA. So really inside of the educational part. But I'm inviting all of you to come for the 20th of September during London Fashion Week to London to see the show and see that fashion can be a tool of total change. And you need to be in the show. You need to come and see the show and be part of our movement.
Thank you. You'll learn a lot more about Samantha and the project in the documentary. Jean-Baptiste, is there anything else you would like to say?
Sure. I mean, I've already said a lot about, the intention behind the project, and maybe I would like to talk about IFA Paris, actually, because so we're in this new campus, but the core of the school hasn't changed. IFA stands for International Fashion Academy, and of course everybody talks about their school being international. But here we have about 110 nationalities that are represented in the student population. We have about 1,000 students, actually. And believe it or not, this is the first year that we started teaching our programs in French, which is really weird for a French school, right? All our programs are taught in English. I think what makes the school different is its take on sustainability. And of course, I always say that sustainability is not just about optimizing the utilization of environmental resources. There's a lot that we put in sustainability, but very often we forget that it's about nurturing communities in particular. So working on this project actually was amazing, obviously. I have to say I'm still choked up to see a lot of people from this project and for most of us, we haven't met physically until today. So that's pretty amazing. But we do a lot of projects that revolve around community. We have the Hope Project that, where we mix our master students working with refugees and developing collections on the theme of migration. We have, starting again, who said 10 minutes? It was 10 Parisian minutes, so it's 20 minutes. We work very closely with IOM, that is the International Organization and Office for Migration. So we provide scholarships for migrants and refugees that go through the West Balkans Regional Center. We work with them also on the development of a collection that is called No Nation Fashion, that is made by migrants in the West Balkans as well. And a couple of years ago, we showed in New York during Fashion Week. And so before you arrived, Craig, I was talking about fashion being militant, fashion being political. And I don't think there's any other way, to be honest with you. And it's really, and thank you, Louis, for saying that, but it's really not driven by me. It's driven by the students. Pardon my French, but I get my ass kicked every day by the students when they tell me, you should not collaborate with this brand, you should not collaborate with this country, we should do this, we should do that. Getting my ass kicked is actually, it's yeah, putting it lightly, but it's also a way to say that we learn a lot from them, and they are the ones that give the directions to the school.
Kat, I met you at London Fashion Week at Samantha's when we had our show, and I met Isaac at the same time.
Did
tell us what you've been up to.
we've had a busy time. So my name's Kat Palo-Bent, and I'm the founder of a company called Seated Sewing. We are a bespoke studio creating for the disabled community. And I actually debuted my collection just in February at Samantha's show, where we put Braille on the catwalk. So we were able to give a Braille description of what the garment is, what the style is, what the fit is. So for the first time ever in the UK, people can understand what their clothes are rather than having someone describe them to them. So we're working on some really exciting projects. And yeah, I was talked into creating a collection, but absolutely over the moon that I did, because it's going from strength to strength.
Thank you. And Victoria.
Just describing what I do. Hi, my name is Victoria. I founded Unhidden, which is an adaptive fashion brand. I graduated after studying fashion design in 2008 and went straight into being a pattern cutter, and then fell into being a garment technologist, which is like a clothing engineer. And I worked for suppliers to the high street. Then I went to brands, and then I quit to pursue Unhidden. But that's because in the background, like 80% of the community, I acquired my disability. So I have non-apparent disabilities. I had life-saving surgery in 2012 and have various bits of me removed and rewired, and none of the conditions are degenerative, and there is more surgery in the future. But I was in hospital in 2016 with another patient who just said she couldn't dress how she wanted to, and she'd gone through cancer. She had 2 stomas, a line in her arm and a chest. And I thought the last thing this woman needs is to be worrying about how to get dressed every day. And because I worked in fashion, which is a famously unkind industry, I had my laptop with me. So I whipped it out and had a look at what disabled fashion was, and came across the word adaptive, which was coined by Mindy Shire and Tommy Hilfiger, who has been in the space since 2015. Not that you'd know, because he doesn't necessarily talk about it. So I started trading Unhidden 5 years ago this November, with first adaptive brand to join the British Fashion Council. We are showing on the main schedule for the first time this coming September, but we don't have a date or a time slot yet because we're not one of the big ones. So we're still fighting the egos on that. But Unhidden was also acquired last year, which was a real sort of leap of faith in the power and the spend behind adaptive fashion. And this year I also launched across 10 countries and 96 stores, adaptive fashion with Primark. I actually went today to visit the Crytel store, which is one of their best selling for adaptive fashion. So Paris and France has really got behind it. And I'm going to stop talking now.
I will tell you, and we'll make sure you get this, but I had the privilege of interviewing most of the people in this panel for an American trade publication, and that article's coming out. And I can sort of summarize many of the things that you all said, and that is, fashion is important. We express ourselves, right? And if you can't express yourself, how do you go out the door and be your best self? And that's really fundamentally what we're all here to do, and have let everyone be able to do that. And it's so exciting. It's happening at university level, but it's also exciting. It's happening at Primark level, at the global level. You have an international panel here, and we wanted you to see that, and we wanted you to understand how important it is that you're here.
Victoria, you said one thing which was, as hard as it is to share, as soon as one person steps up and says, it changed the way I see things, it changed the way I interact, it changed, my hope. It made me believe. That's something that I've heard countless times since, and something that, a lot of the other contributors said, but you're definitely someone that's, you were the pioneer in a lot of ways, and that was definitely something that resounded. So I'd love to hear, your reflection.
You're going to make me cry now, Louis.
Yes, I'm not doing it yet, so I'm like...
Well, I mean, like Kat said, once you see it, you can't unsee it. The very first photo shoot that I had for Unhidden, one of the models said she hadn't been able to wear a dress for 10 years. And it's something that simple. And just something that, from your underwear to your shoes, everything we interact with every day, if it's not made for us, it's just another barrier that holds us back. And with the Primark launch, one of the models said that it was the first time she'd been able to pull jeans on by herself, and she's 26. So it's just one of those, it's staggering. I'm very grateful to this entire panel for all the work we're all doing. Samantha's been in the space a lot longer. But it's staggering that we're still talking about this and that it's still new and we're all still the first to be doing these things, because this should already be the standard. And I think finally not just the social impact, but the financial impact is getting across. We've managed to prove it's financially viable and people are starting to back us and we're starting to get brands interested. But I still think that in 2025, it's shocking that we are still having these conversations and it's still news. By the way, it's not your fault you don't know any of this. We are held back by something called digital ableism, but I won't drone on about that. We'll talk about that later. But I'm very proud to be part of this community and very grateful for being disabled, because otherwise I probably wouldn't be sat here having these conversations and doing the work that I do.
When I first met Isaac, he said something to me. As human beings, all we can do is learn from each other. And I said to him, stop, I have to write this down. But it's true. It's true. And I think the thing that's so wonderful about this community is that we do share and we do learn. Samantha, when I interviewed you for this magazine article, I'll make sure everybody gets, you talked about it's not just enough doing the clothes. It's important, but we need models. We need shows. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and why Future Fashion Show is so important and the end-to-end of that?
Yeah. I mean, life is not one thing, For example, I do play tennis. I go to a restaurant with my husband. It's cross path. I'm a sports person. I'm a fashion person. I'm a wife. It's just like we are not one thing and we're just that thing. So it's the same in fashion, We need more brands. We need more models. We need marketing. We need everything, So also saying about you need more allies. You need more people to back up our movements, because as we all know, and is a quote that we say, is not about if, it's about when I'm going to get a disability. Could be for noise, could be for, like Kat just mentioned here, that was very noisy, So why can we think universally and make the things that some clothes can help someone that's when you are pregnant, when you are any kind of difference that we have, that you go through life, because not all disability are permanent, can be something that's temporary. So for the fashion, I think it's more the fact that we are going to be able to see people and understand that has a customer there, that person can be someone that is going to come to our shop and spend the money, and that we, you like I normally say, we exist, we are here, and closing what you are saying, we are not the Pandora box. We are out, and we are not going to come back as our minds, all of us, once we expand and we start to know something, you are not going to come back to that original shrink mind. But I'm not thinking that we should be thinking with our minds. I think when we do that, we expand with our hearts. So that is the real connection. When that is open, nothing is going to come back to place. So the empathy to put ourselves and the other people's. I know much about my disability, and we talking about each other. We learn about different disabilities. In doing the show, it's enormous. You are always learning. So the empathy is one of the things that I would say learn from this. In all the work we are doing as a community, in all our little work that is not that little, by the way.
No, it's not. And it's worth a lot of money. It's predicted to be $30 billion US in the next 5 years, right? It's not, it's a big chunk. And there's a lot of spending power in this community that's overlooked.
Is $8 billion.
73% of consumers know someone with a disability.
Yeah,
That's the
because
stat
when we when I go to a restaurant, I'm not going on my own. I'm going to take my husband. I'm going to take a friend. So it's this number is much bigger. The disability community is 1.2 billion people in the world. It's almost 25%. So it's huge. It's huge. It's a big opportunity for brands, for people, for everyone to learn about.
And this kind of goes back to what we were all talking about earlier, and that is, and you said this to me when I interviewed you, people living with disability used to be outcasts, then they were ward of the church. Now society is changing, and that societal change.
We used to throw people in the rivers. They have a disability, we're born with a disability, just kill them, throw in the river, It's so how society is changing and now.
And in a world where it's a lot of fear, that's an awfully wonderful positive thing, isn't it? That we are seeing this happen. And we recognize it. I mean, you can tell from my accent, I'm an American, so of course the commercial value. But that is sometimes what we have to tell people in order for them to listen. And it's there as well. So it's authentic and it's worth money. And it happens to be authentic and it happens to do good and it makes people feel good about themselves. And like we say it differently in Able, when you look good, you feel good. And when you feel good, you do good. Is there anything you'd like the audience to remember? Kat, you've been quiet, and I know you a lot. You and I sit in the corner and scream and laugh. Anything you'd like the audience to know? I mean, the Braille thing was genius. You got a lot of wonderful press, and you and Victoria worked on Unique Boutique in London. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about that experience, but that was a program on the BBC, a series.
Channel 4.
Channel 4, thank you. I do that all the time. You want to talk a little bit about that? Because that, again, was mainstream.
Yeah, I think it's the more we see disabled representation on the TV or in the community, our society, the more we understand their needs and their wants. Disabled models, there's only about 0.6% of advertising actually has a disabled model on it. So very much the community often doesn't feel seen because we're not on billboards or seen on catwalks. So it's very much about, we're loud and we're proud and we're out there and we're making the noise for those that don't feel they've got the ability to do that. But there's a few of us that are quite vocal and we'll do it for others.
Anything from you, Victoria, on that experience?
Well, I mean, it was, I tell between friends, I had actually pitched a very similar idea and then it got pitched back at me. That's how Unique Boutique sort of started.
Well, you are a woman after all. We have this ongoing job, and it's getting better, but just kind of tends to still be leaning towards white men, and we have to fix that.
Yes, yeah. But it was a wonderful experience, being able to sort of say, when they were asking, I had to look over all the casting. One of the people that took part I actually already knew. So when his name popped up, I was like, of course he's in it. And it was nice to be able to put Kat forward for pattern cutting and sewing and then go on to the show herself. And she's done other TV work since. We did hope that show was going to turn into a series. But the commissioning editor left Channel 4 and the one coming in wasn't entirely behind the project. So then the scheduling changed and then we weren't aired until 11 o'clock at night. Famously accessible time to be watching TV. But it did change. I think it opened a lot of eyes. I think that was the most important thing. From a sustainability point of view, what that really did was show that people want to wear their own clothes as well. They don't want to just be able to go and buy clothes on the high street, although everyone should. That's not a privilege, it's a right. But overnight, suddenly not being able to wear your whole wardrobe, we attach great memory and power to garments that were bought for us or that we've worn for special occasions that potentially you can't ever wear again. So I think there's something really interesting that can start to happen within the adaptive space for that. And we've tried to do that. I did do a collaboration with Lucy and Yak where they gave us their dead stock fabric and we adaptively upcycled them and sold them. But we had no say over the size range, the prints. We just got given what we got given and had to make that work. But I think that's something that I'm hoping the fashion industry will continue to adopt because I think that's really important. And to go onto catwalks, I think when it comes to higher end brands, their responsibility is in representation because, the disabled community is 50% more likely to live in poverty. So price range is an issue. Doesn't mean that we can't all afford nice things. Of course we can. But I think that's where there's sort of a bit of a line that we need high street retailers to stock adaptive clothing, and we need high-end luxury brands to represent us, and not to do it once and then never do it again, and not to do it and expect a big clap on the back for finally joining. They should just be doing it from the beginning. And I think we've actually seen a reversal, unsurprisingly, with the rise of Ozempic in sizing, but also in the amount of designers hiring disabled models. And it's not because there aren't disabled models. There are. We're just not being hired.
Yep. I'm going to turn to you before we turn the film on.
All right.
What else would you like the audience to know?
Well, I would love to start with the massive round of applause for the man behind the screen, Robin, my co-director. Woo! In a very, very brief anecdote, because we got to get cracking with this film so that we can get wrapped up. But right before starting to produce, me and Robin watched a film called The Gleaners and I by Agnes Varda, Les Glaneurs et la Glaneuse. And it's all about sustainable food. The concept of gleaning is that you would go in after the harvest, and you would, the villagers would be able to take whatever was left after the harvest. So it was excess. It was not necessarily no one was going to use it. It was going to go to waste. And that tradition has died down, increasingly so because large producers actually hide their excess stocks so that people are not going onto their fields. They don't want that, invasion of privacy. Again, they own the land now. And so that has transferred into people going into the markets and, getting whatever excess there is there. The reason I bring this up is because just after we watched that film, as we're shooting, we went out one night and we were in a dark alley and a rustle happened down the alley, and we looked and there was a woman going through the bins, and we were super curious. Robin was super curious. So he walked up and he was like, what are you doing? And she basically had found this patisserie, boulangerie, and was like, they have the best éclairs. And so she would go and she would get these perfectly unopened boxes of éclairs out of the bin. And she basically opened it, perfectly intact. And she's like, do you want one? I was like, no. And Rob's like, yes, I'll take one. Thank you. And he's like, Lou, you're going to try it. So I'm like, okay, yeah, whatever. But, that really opened my eyes in terms of re-seeing what value we put on things as a society. And as humorous as it was, it did teach me a lot. And so, I'm eternally grateful for the man behind the screen. He's even better looking when he steps out. But, but that's what I would leave you with, is reconsider what you put value on before you watch this film.
Thank you all for coming. Let's watch the movie, yeah?